Well, a big God bless you to all of our family and friends. Shabbat Shalom. This is Torah Talks with Tony and Bill. I'm Tony, and this is Bill. I call him Papa B. We've been talking a lot about circumcision, and I do want to get back into that today. We're getting ready to dive in even deeper. What I like to do is start this off. We always say pray for our country and those who are affected by the decisions we make in this country. And I want to just talk about that just a little bit before we get into some of the other things, and then we'll make a few announcements. Um, it's easy to get distracted in our country, and it's easy to get sidetracked and start just looking at what's going on and listening to the rhetoric and getting involved in politics and all that, and just getting lost in that. Rather we're looking at extending a wall that's already 600 something miles long, or rather we're talking about prosecuting a political figure, and people get on both sides, should be prosecuted, should not be, all that stuff. Or rather we're talking about how we aid other countries come to their rescue, things like that. There seems to be there's all this opportunity to just really get lost in that. What I try and do is I try to remember that I'm responsible in prayer when I hear these things, and when when the Lord, I don't call it conviction, I call it love, responding to love. When His love starts pulling me in to whatever part of this, I realize I have a responsibility in prayer, and I have a responsibility to model before others what our response to God should be, and not necessarily our reaction to what's going on in the public or whatever. So when we say pray for our country, we really do mean that. This is not just something, again, we're saying as some catchy phrase. We really mean that. Pray for our country, because when we make decisions in this country, and we're so-called the free world, when we make decisions in this country, we're on the world's stage. And not only are the politicians and the leaders of what they call the free world on this stage, but the citizens, the people who live, the believers who live in this country, we're on stage because we're responsible for modeling what our response should be. What would you say to individuals that are starting to get confused? They're starting to feel this passion raise up, because one of the things that came out is, with the partial shutdown of the government, people not working, income not coming in, and people starting to feel some type of way about that. So what do you say to individuals that are starting to really get bothered by what's going on in our political realm?
The first thing, I would say to you, to all of us, to myself, I keep reminding myself of this, is something the Father said to me again recently. He said it a long time ago, and it's really changed the way I approached a lot of things, ministry in particular, teaching in particular, but also now in regard to every aspect of our social and political life. The further you get from real people with real faces that you know their names, and the more you get into ideas and ideologies and philosophies, the more dangerous you become, the more toxic you become, and the less effective you become. And so basically, with regard to all these issues that are out there, and we have a new abortion law in New York that has attracted a lot of attention, Facebook and social media and the news media and these sorts of things. A lot of people are angry. A lot of people are outraged. Now, the way the Creator has set this up is that every human being is assigned a sphere of influence that involves real people with faces, people that they interact with on a regular basis, and that they have some influence or impact in their life. The world of political ideas is not that world. you have no influence. I mean, it's like someone says, we need to be outraged. We need to mount a big protest on social media. And I think, why? What possible good will it do? We're here to actually to make an influence on situations. So the idea, for instance, considering the issue of immigration, it's a nonsense thing. The issue is real people on all sides. The people who live near the border, the people who are on the other side of the border, the people who are coming for good purposes, the people who are coming for bad purposes. It's people. And until we have one in front of us, then pontificating, throwing out ideas, all it does is make people mad. All it does is stir up trouble. Same thing with regard to the abortion issue. If you have a girl that you know that is pregnant, or perhaps even a young man who has fathered or impregnated a woman, and they are adversely affected by this issue, then deal with those people and love them and speak to them, not in terms of pontificating ideas, but on their life. And make sure that you're not giving some moralistic judgment into their position or their situation. Instead, offer some kind of a way out, a solution. Something that is better than the thing that the world tells them is the most natural thing. Just get rid of that rascal. You know, if we don't have anything better to offer, then we don't have any influence. The kingdom of heaven is a kingdom of influence. It's a kingdom of doing things. It's not a kingdom of believing stuff. It's not a kingdom of yelling and screaming and being upset and letting your emotions run wild because you feel outraged or offended or indignant about something that's going on that's bad. The issue is now, what in your sphere of influence can you speak or say to a real person who is really in the throes of this issue? If you have a situation, you mentioned the issue of some people were out of work with the government shutdown. Of course, fortunately, we're going to see a 21-day renewal, but whatever that process is, the issue is not how bad somebody is or whose fault it is that we're having the shutdown. The issue is, well, okay, we have a shutdown. That's affecting you. You as not theoretical people, not people you have heard about. I'm talking about people you know. Your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, your cousin, your nephew, your friend, your neighbor. This person that you know is really going through something. Now, this is about to open up a whole world of what the kingdom is really all about. We are not here to sympathize with their problem. We're here to help. We're here to do something physically. If you need to have them over for a meal, if you need to send them $20 that you got extra that you could possibly do without, if you need to just encourage them that this is going to turn out all right, and give them something to pray about in the meantime and think about in the meantime. These are the key factors. Becoming a real influence rather than a pontificator, and particularly a Facebook pontificator. I mean, I love to use Facebook to encourage and inspire people. But if you ever start using Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any social media platform to be a spreader of bad news and a spreader of anger and hate and offense and indignation and arrogance, which is what I see mostly. I'm right, you're wrong. That's the epitome of arrogance. And I'm not trying to shoot you down. I'm trying to wake you up. We're not here to be arrogant. We're not here to tell people what's right and wrong. We're not here to tell people what's fair and unfair. We're not here to tell what's moral and immoral. We're here to help. Help in real, tangible ways. And so that's my first response to you is, this is what the kingdom is about. Not about ideas and about who's right and wrong. Ideas about where we're going to do about it. And in real terms, in real people's lives.
Real people, real time, real issues, and the kingdom of God being present during those times. One of the things that when I was listening to you, I was thinking about people who really were experiencing, whatever because of the shutdown. The first question to me as a person who loves God and responds to God, what do you want me to do? Right? So this is why we're talking, or this is one of the reasons we're talking about circumcision, because through circumcision, we become less sensitive to negativity and to words and triggers, and we become more of a responder to his love, and and therefore we can begin to change things. We begin to impact change in real time. I love when you used to teach in real time. So what happens then is when I come home, I come every day. I have a routine. I come home for lunch, and I turn the television on for a few minutes, and it's a breather, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll hear something come on the deal there, and I know when the circumcision type experience is working in my heart, because I'm not triggered, right? I don't feel like I got to run out now and begin to proclaim, whatever to the people that seem to be causing the issues. I have a compassion heart. The Bible says Yeshua was moved with compassion. He would see or experience certain things that was going on in people's lives, and he was moved. Every time you see him moved, he did something, right? Rather it be healing the sick, or feeding those who were following him, whatever the case may, casting out demons, devils, whatever. He was moved and he did something out of love. He responded. And what I want to work on becoming even more, because sometimes there's still maybe the political realm doesn't do that to me, but I still have that feeling with other things, right?
Sure.
And so the Lord's dealing with me, and part of him dealing with me is healing me. I remember when I felt the Lord was moving me back to Texarkana. Mother Dorothy came up. I think she called me, and she said a lot of healing had to take place for you to make that drive back here, and will continue to take place, so that what she was saying basically is for you to be able to put the past behind and become present here in Texarkana, because you can't come here and you won't be effective if you're not healed, if you're not whole. You're going to allow the past, you're going to allow the stuff that you think happened to you to blind you from being able to see what's going on in Texarkana right now today. And I agree that there had to be some level of healing. Abba had to touch me and begin to work with me, so that I could come back here and be present in the lives of the people I would begin to encounter during this time. We heard you when you asked us about YouTube and about other ways to get this Torah talk out, and so we do have now accessible to you on YouTube, Torah Talks with Tony and Bill. All you have to do is go into YouTube, into your search engine, and just type in Torah Talks with Tony and Bill, and you'll see a list of our different posts. What we like you to do is once you get onto YouTube and you pull this up, you'll see options at the bottom of that video, and you guys are used to this. I'm not teaching you anything, but we want you to subscribe to Torah Talks and Tony and Bill. That will assist us greatly. So just hit that subscribe button, and that will help us further this message. We really feel like the Lord's doing something in this message, just as he's doing with some of you and some of the things that Abba's given you to do.
One thing
Yes.
I'd like to say into that, Tony, and thank you for the option to do that. But, one of the challenges I have, because of what the Lord has said to me about real people and speaking to real people and seeing real faces and names and lives in front of me, as opposed to just pontificating ideas, is that this particular format is somewhat challenging. I have one real person in front of me, and we're good friends, and we've known each other a long time. And so, but I can see, I watch Tony's face, but what would really help us, and what we really encourage you to do, because we really desire to see a strong a change, a shift in the atmosphere of the kingdom people away from anger and outrage and frustration and worry and stress to active engagement with the world in such a way that the world is not seen in generations of kindnesses and mercies and love. Now, in order for that movement to take place, and this is the ultimate purpose of the circumcision we're talking about, this cutting back of the excess flesh is not some religious experience we're going through. It is a preparation for engagement with our society in beautiful, marvelous ways. For this to take place, however, in this context with us, for us to get engaged and be doing the things that we need to be doing in your lives, we do need your feedback. We need real people to speak and tell us what's you're facing, what you're dealing with, what your challenges are, whether it's the challenges you feel have been brought about by what is being said by Tony or by myself in these discussions, or whether it's what's going on around you in your environmental statuses. Whatever those things are, we encourage you, we inspire you. This is a safe place here, and we desire to actually speak into the real issues that you have to deal with, as if we were right here in the room with us, which is what we really feel like is what's going on.
Absolutely. Having said that, real people with real questions, and we appreciate those of you that are putting your questions out on the page. A question came in, and I want Papa B to speak to this, is how can we honor the Sabbath in our homes? What should we do on the Sabbath? And although Papa B is going to talk to you, we're going to make sure that we have outlines and things like that that you can access so that you can have something in your home. But right now, I kind of want him to just speak to the question, how can we honor the Sabbath in our homes?
Thank you for asking that question. It's a beautiful question, and one that I remember going through again as I awakened to the Sabbath again in 1995, and looking online trying to find things, and because I'd seen this when I was a child, but I hadn't seen it since. Somebody actually taking this Friday sundown through Saturday sundown and making it a very special day. And so to actually get out of our usual routines and get out of our mind focuses about what the week consists of and what the weekend consists of, and actually now begin to center our lives around the Sabbath was a shift for my mind again. And so I know it is for all you. I mean, I understand, especially if you've not been engaged in this process before, it almost seems foreign, and it is, because it is of another kingdom. It is of another world. It is of our holy king's world and his kingdom. And so it's a foreign concept. Now, the issue we get into is, first of all, if you look online, you're going to find a lot of arguments. Avoid them. There's no point. There's no issue. Don't take sides on whether, you're supposed to meet on now Sunday is the Sabbath, or Saturday is the Sabbath, or it's only Saturday during the day, or you have to do it this way, or you can't do it this way. Take a deep breath. Sabbath is not about a theological position. Sabbath is about reconnecting with the Creator of the universe and making that your priority. He has made it his. He has ordained that the seventh day is holy and blessed. He has opened up this beautiful vista where we can go through a portal, so to speak, Friday at sundown, and begin to enter into his world and converse with him and be with him for 24 hours, even though we're physically still on earth. Our minds and our hearts, and we try to take our children and our spouses with us to the extent they learn how to go. But it's our job to get there, whether they go or whether they don't. It's our job to spend that time debriefing with the Holy One and having the briefing for the coming week. And that's really what this Sabbath day is. It's like, stop what you're doing. Stop the things you're thinking about. Stop the things you're worried about. Stop the things you're actively engaged in or especially against, and reconnect with his life force. So usually what I say to people is, okay, look at what you could do. First of all, to welcome the shift that takes place right at sundown on Friday night. This is just step one, phase one, but it's a good place to start. How do I welcome the Sabbath is what it's called, Kabbalat Shabbat in Hebrew. But it's how do you welcome this beautiful gift that God has given you? Well, if you think about it, when someone gives you a gift in the natural world, you know, immediately you turn your eyes to the gift, right? Yeah, you want to make sure you keep your intention on the giver. You want to, whoever gave you this gift, if somebody brings a gift to a lunch and they hand it to you, well, you want to look to the giver and you want to continue the relationship with the giver, but you want to really enjoy the gift. Be amazed by it. Be dazzled by it. Be excited by it. Let the feelings of it come over you. So how can we welcome this gift? He has come to our table, so to speak. Or maybe we've gone to his, but whatever it is, we're now there, and he had pulled out this gift. This is the gift of Sabbath. I have given you a Sabbath, he says in the book of Exodus. And he's given you this process. Just as Yeshua gave us peace, he gives us the Sabbath. We talked a little bit about that last week. And so this idea of how to start. And so usually the best ways we can do to kick off an interaction with God, which is what this whole Sabbath day is prayer. You know, prayer, song, blessing. We call it blessing, just speaking good things to the Lord, telling him how much we like him, giving thanks, having some way to enjoy the things of creation. It's like, you know, the traditional way in the Hebrew is to grab a glass of grape juice or wine, you know, and wait for the sundown and hold it up and give thanks that even the natural things of this earth can be used to glorify God. It's not we're going to get drunk because we have a glass of wine, or a glass of grape juice. It's not that. It is that we recognize that every gift is from God. And so it's called Kiddush, which means setting apart, making holy, being holy. And so this issue. So we start with that, and there are many traditional things that are done, and I recommend them as to you look at them and to experience them, as to see what the feel is. You know, there are certain things that we recite the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Mahuto Leolam Vayed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is an echad, a unity. Blessed be his glorious name and his kingdom forever and ever. And you see how just the sense of it, the rhythm of it, the feel of it is a traditional way. We take it from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, and on through that. And then there are different things that can be said. I don't want to try to teach you a whole lesson about that right now. I just want to tell you that let's start. Just start with the beginning of this period that starts at sundown on Friday night. There was evening and there was morning. It was the seventh day. And the evening of the seventh day happens at Saturday night, or Friday night, excuse me, at 6, at whatever sundown may be at the given time. So find a way to introduce yourself to the Sabbath, and then you'll see how the rest of the 24-hour period can flow. It's all related to your introduction. First fruits, if the first fruits are holy, then the rest of the batch will be holy.
Oh, that was beautiful. Even when he was just singing, I just felt the surrendering right there, and that's a part of what we do also in Sabbath is we surrender. Yeah. We're going to give all those things to him, and we're going to enjoy him. We're going to focus on him and enjoy his presence, and model that before our families so they can also learn to do that. I can tell you in terms of stress relieving, this is the best way to deal with that stress that has built up over the week. I don't know about, the people who are watching, but I'm sure you have jobs that are pretty stressful, right? It's just the times that we live in. But I can tell you a de-stressor is Sabbath.
Last night, I usually am very good at this, but somehow last night, this past week, it was a stressful week for us in many ways. We had a funeral, we had different things to do, and it was an honor to do it. Don't get me wrong. But I at certain stage during the evening, shortly after the Sabbath came, I actually began to express my displeasure about a situation. And immediately I felt like I had polluted the Sabbath, and I had. And it's like I have polluted the room because this day is not about what I'm displeased about. This is a displeasure-free zone. You know, what we are is, you know, on the seventh day, God rested from his work and he delighted in it. And he said, it is good. If everything about the Sabbath is supposed to be our saying with the Creator, it is good. It is good. All is, even if it doesn't look beautiful in every way we see it right now, you're working it together for good. For those who love you, who are called according to your purpose, for your design, for your grand redemptive plan for mankind and for restoration of creation. You are working it for good. So it is good, even if it doesn't feel good. So instead of doing what I did last night, which is, and seriously, it really felt, I wanted to just take those words and cram them back in my mouth. You can't do that. You instead have to try to replace it with beautiful things. And so Sabbath is a day of beauty, and it's a day of wealth. I'm not talking about monetary wealth. I'm talking about kingdom wealth. When we just feel that there are royal robes on us, and every word of our mouth is like spoken before the throne of God. And we don't complain before the throne of God. We don't gripe at people or fuss about situations or say it's not good enough for us before the throne of God. And there's a reason for that, not just because we're afraid he'll hurt us, which he won't. The real reason we don't do it is because in his presence, all is good. And so that's our real test. Our test of whether we've entered into the Sabbath is how we're talking and what we're thinking about during the 24 hours. If it's not beauty and it's not good, Paul says, whatever so is good, whatever is pure. Yes. Think on these things. That we test that on the Sabbath. Yeah. And then we carry the Sabbath in the rest of the week.
Oh, I love it. We want to encourage you to do these things. You know, one of the ways to address the doubt and unbelief is to experience it for yourself. We can talk about it and we experience it. We're here right now because of Sabbath here's one of the things that I love about Sabbath, Papa B, is the fact that we get to come together as a community, as a family, and talk and listen to each other as we talk about the Torah, as we talk about the people of God, the B'nai of Israel, as we talk about those families and their journey, and we get to look at our own journeys and see how to make changes and to adapt or modify whatever we need to do. To me, a part of the rest is not having to think about and not having to worry about and become anxious about the things that have gone on in my week prior to. Now I'm getting prepared because remember, if the Lord wills and nothing happened, we're going back into the next week, right? So I like what you said. There's this stop, right? Stop, right? Breathe. When I'm teaching de-escalation, one of the things that I teach people is to stop, think, and respond, right? Because the temptation is to react soon as something happens, but to quieten that voice in you and to deactivate your systems and to regulate yourself, stop. And what I mean by stop, examine where you are right now. What's going on in your body, right? How are you feeling right now, right? What's your pulse doing? What's your heart rate doing? Because you probably don't want to act out of that place. And so we say stop, right? Sabbath gives us that, right? It's like its own de-escalation, right? It de-escalates you and it says stop, breathe, and take in the beauty of creation, of the prophetic word, of the interaction that we're going to have with each other. Take in the beauty of that, because what goes in comes out, right? And so if we're taking in beauty and glory, then ultimately that's what we're going to release when we step into the next week.
Yeah, and to me, the Friday, the two elements of Sabbath, two different. It's almost like two different days, but it's all one. And the evening part of the Sabbath, and then the morning part of the Sabbath, or the day part of the Sabbath. The evening part of the Sabbath is our stop, and it is our inhaling. Uh, Inhaling the breath of God, inhaling the beauty of the heavens, the scent, the fragrance of Messiah, inhaling that and getting our shalom. Once we get our shalom and we go to bed with our shalom that night on Friday evening, and we've by that time we've downgraded, we have de-escalated, as the case may be. And then we wake up, we arise on Sabbath morning, the morning of the Sabbath, and now we are ready to emit and exude that Sabbath, that peace, that shalom, that sense of well-being into other people. And that's when usually we'll see people come together. We come together at the Biblical Lifestyle Center on Sabbath for what I kind of call our Kingdom Roundtable Torah Talk discussion, and we'll start in a few moments here. But when we do that, the idea is not to argue ideas or to sermonize. I mean, there may be some of that because I can't seem to resist to do it. But the goal is more the idea of exuding the holiness and inspiring one another and encouraging one another. If you read the book of Colossians, the book of Ephesians, you see Paul saying these things about when you come together, what it's supposed to look like. And everyone's supposed to have a word, and everyone's supposed to have a song, and everyone's supposed to have a psalm, and everyone's supposed to be an encourager and an inspirer, and you're supposed to put on the bond of love. And how can you do that? Friday night at your home is the best way to de-escalate all the junk of the world and the stuff you've been engaged in, and your own struggles and your own family issues, your own personal issues, your own emotional issues, your own bodily health issues, and your finance issues, and say, but I'm in the presence of God, and in the presence of God, all things are well. And now you have that sense of shalom about you, and that day of Sabbath is to exude that and to learn to resist the temptation to jump back into the anger, the offense, the irritation, because you are around other human beings who may not exude it the way you want them to, or who may not exude it at all because of where they are in their life and what's happening in their world and their inability on the Erev Shabbat, the night before the night of the Sabbath, to be able to de-escalate. Some people will come in to your gathering or be at the places where you are escalated. And our job is to exude the Sabbath into them, not to correct them, not to argue with them, not to fight with them, and to somehow learn how to be a greater example in this process. And that's why before we go into the next week, which will begin Saturday at night at sundown on Saturday, we enter into another world. And that's the other aspect of leaving the Sabbath, but never really leaving it and taking it with you as you go. That's the one part of our past we are to take with us into our future, the Sabbath, just before.
So this, and we'll get ready to close. So this covenant sign on his community, it distinguishes us. It gives the world hope. We're not distinguished so that we can appear to be better than somebody, higher than somebody, or whatever the case may be. We're distinguished to give the world hope, to give them the model, right? And so this sign on our lives, it should identify you. If people need to find hope, this should identify us in the earth and say, this is what it looks like. This is what holiness, blessedness, rest, this is what it looks like. And this is so important. So when we leave the Sabbath, as you say, but not really leaving it, and we go back into our work weeks, now we're taking that influence with us, and we're stepping into a place where hopefully people are saying, how
they stay peaceful? How do they stay calm?
Doing all this, because you're experiencing the same thing I am. You're in the same situation we're in, but there's something different about your approach and your mannerism. So hopefully, you'll take this and you'll begin to to trust Abba and allow him to guide you through this process. There's so much that Papa B can, and we'll still touch on this throughout. There's so much he can share with you on this Sabbath. I've heard a lot, and I'm telling you, it's just beautiful. And that's why when he started singing the song, my hand just I couldn't really keep it down. It just kind of went up on its own because I understand and I'm connected to Sabbath that way. Listen, pray for our country and those who are affected by the decisions we make in this country. Until next week, Shabbat Shalom.